Shalom, family. Good to see everyone here. Hope you're doing well. Well, I want to start by announcing 45% off for my newest product, which is the Shebe Growth Butter. And it is on sale as of the 24th through the 27th. Okay, so you get 45% off, and you just go over to my Etsy store and make your purchase there. So, y'all, let's get into the World Cup. The one thing that is really in an uproar all around the internet is how black the players were for virtually every nation except for Argentina. And people were asking, how come the German team is practically all black? And the French team and the UK team, or these teams, the Netherlands, they're all black. So what's going on? Every team except for Argentina had melanated men, and it didn't matter what country they were from. So people started asking questions about the global population. And it seems like everybody feels tricked into believing, the people that try to boast themselves as being big in this country really, they technically, y'all, they really ain't big in this country at all. Because anytime you got to add groups like the Latinos, the Arabs, the East Indians, you ain't that damn big. Y'all need to stop lying. You're not that big. If you got to put everybody in the category except for us, then you're not a big group, you know. And I think y'all been lying for a very long time up in here. And I suspect it, and many people do. Quite frankly, I don't see that many of you out here. Even when I travel to other states, up and down, especially the East Coast, y'all don't look that big. I'm sorry, you just don't. You never have. Now, maybe 50 years ago, but since y'all have been declining every single year in your population because y'all not having enough babies, oh, people notice the change. Many of us do. Not only here, but even over in Europe. In fact, every nation you're in where you had slavery, y'all are on a major decline because, slavery was in Europe too. So, look, y'all, I want to go over some of the things people are talking about online. Now, I went to Chat GPT and I actually use Claude, and I want y'all to hear the answer that it gave me. Let me also let me put this up on the screen. Okay. Actually, this is the video that I'm going to show, but I'm going to talk about Claude. Now, I went on Claude because I had a couple of questions about, everybody is starting to chatter about global population and how come when we see the World Cup, every single nation on the planet got black players. And Argentina, we ain't worried about them. Argentina is trash. So, anyway, I went out and my question was, are these numbers that we're receiving exaggerated? And it pretty much said yes. And then I was asking, have many of these people been in these nations for generations? And guess what it said? It said yes. Many of these black men and women have been, including European countries, have been there for generations. Now we know migration is going on. Okay, migration is definitely going on. We're fully aware of that. But you can't negate the fact that all of these places that had slavery have generations of what they classify as black people in their country. Now, the oldest of them all is in the Middle East. You know, the Afro Arabs, the Afro Iranians, because slavery has gone on for a millennium over there. So they got people that have been there for eons of generations that are still there now. So that's what I was asking about. Or have these people existed for generations in these nations? And I want to go over what it says. Okay, let me just pull this up. Give me a second. Because I was asking quite a few questions. And I was also asking, I know it can't give a fully accurate number on the global population, but I was asking about it anyway. And yeah, we're way bigger than white people. In fact, there are some of our people online saying they are not accepting white people telling us we're minorities anymore, especially after looking at the World Cup. So the World Cup seemed to have turned on a light switch for a lot of people. All right, I got what I want. So let me pull this up. Okay, so I was asking about people being in all these different nations around the earth for generations. And the answer was yes, that's accurate and well documented. The transatlantic and other historical slavery trades created large multi generational black population across many parts of the world, some going back 400 years and beyond. Now, when you get to the Arab world, it goes back well over 1,000 years. So, Brazil, receiving the largest number of enslaved Africans of any single country, have estimated 4 to 5 million people, roughly over 300 years. Today, Brazil has the largest black population outside of Africa itself, and just over half the country identifies as black or mixed race, Pardo. The Caribbean, Haiti, Jamaica, Cuba, Dominican Republic, and others has black majority populations directly descended from enslaved Africans brought to work sugar and other plantations starting in the 1500s and 1600s. So these folks have been in these locations for many generations, just like us. In the United States, they estimate 388,000 to 400,000 enslaved Africans were brought directly to what's now the US, but through force, reproduction under slavery, the breeding farms that they never liked talking about because it was extremely brutal and cruel. Yeah, that's why they always want to tell you about some plantation where you were picking something, but they never tell you about the harshness of the breeding farm. They stay away from that. The population here in America grew into tens of millions of Black Americans today, of most whom can trace their ancestry back 10 plus generations in the country. Now, the Arab and Indian Ocean slave trade, older and longer running than the Atlantic trade, spanning over 1,000 years, created Black populations across the Middle East, parts of India, Iraq, and other regions dating back over a millennium. So they're talking about the Afro Iraqis, the Afro Iranians, the Afro Saudis, all across the country, over there in the Middle East. There are generations of Black populations all over the Middle East. Europe has a smaller but real historic Black populations tied to earlier colonial and Ottoman era trade routes, in addition to more recent migration. So there are also generations dating back to slavery, colonialism, Ottoman era, of Black people that live in Europe to this very day. So when you see them, they did not all migrate recently from Africa. Some of them have been there for hundreds of years. Hundreds of years they have been there. Okay, so, it just goes into the recent immigration that's going on, especially in Europe, because a lot of these Africans just love going to Europe. 20th century immigration to the UK, France, and Netherlands, who all had Black teams at the World Cup, from former colonies and ongoing African immigration worldwide. So both histories are real, and distinct, and conflating them can flatten some very different stories. So some are forced displacements and some are chosen immigration. So that's referring to Europe. So y'all, we are everywhere. We definitely outnumber the white population all over this globe. We ain't no damn minority. And the World Cup was very telling, because every team, like I said, if you just go back and look, because there's pictures of all these teams, either they were all Black or they had Black players on, many Black players. Sometimes even the Black players outnumbered the non-Black players on the ones that had sort of a mixed team. And so a lot of people are asking many questions now about what's going on this earth. And, they feel that uh, colonizers have done a lot of lying about the population here on this planet. And you can best believe they have. These people fear losing power. So they had to use a lot of deception and making people believe they were way bigger than what they really are. And we were way smaller when we were, in fact, huge on the earth. And that's a fact. We are huge on this earth. And they know it. Why would you think about it? For many years, why do you think they wanted us all to be separated, especially among the melanated people? Like discouraging people from traveling into places that had melanated people, and trying their best to discourage us, especially immigrants, from interacting with us and us interacting with them. And yeah, they went above and beyond, because I believe they knew this day was coming when people would find out, all these melanated people are in virtually every nation in the world. Now, when we hear about, the US, especially when, I'm hearing things about um, FBA and everything, and um, the ethnogenesis that we went through here. Well, think about it. If people have been in the Middle East for over 1,000 years, they definitely went through one on that land. And it definitely happened in Europe because Europe had slavery and those descendants are still there. So it would have happened in the Caribbean and South America as well. So it happened all over, you know? But I'm loving the way people are buzzing about this online. Oh, yes. I'm loving it. I am loving it all the way. All right, y'all, let's get into the videos. But, it's not only that, but a lot of people are saying, y'all need to stop lying when you try to act like we are undesirables and you don't want us around and you got black fatigue and all that. And then when it comes time to play sports, you got us everywhere, all over every team on the planet. Okay. But so it's okay to sit down and watch us run around and do what you obviously can't do, because nobody is buzzing about an overwhelming number of white players out there. Nobody's buzzing about that, but they certainly are buzzing about all the melanin they saw on that soccer field. Thank you for the ones. And our people are getting into black excellence, because if we weren't good at what we do, you would not have had people that look like us on those teams. All right.
If you ever thought you were a minority, just watch the World Cup. It don't matter what team you watch, you finna watch black excellence. Because apparently, we're the global majority. Okay, I was watching Switzerland. I said, how they get all those black players? They didn't even colonize anybody. That's just where the colonizer parked their money. But then I watched Qatar get washed by Canada. Most of Canada's team was black. I know I ain't the only one. I said, how many people did Harriet Tubman take up there? But then I looked again, and half of Qatar's team was black. Apparently, gold ain't the only thing that the UAE and Qatar are taking from Sudan. Too much? Sorry, there are a lot of Afro-Qataris there because of the East African slave trade from the 17th to the 19th centuries. Back to the World Cup. In typical colonial fashion, the players are black, but the coaches are white. Even the African teams, South Africa, Congo, Ghana. White people get so uncomfortable when we're in charge. I mean, that's why the FBI had an entire room for the city of Compton when it became the first city west of the Mississippi with a black mayor. It's also the reason that the CIA assassinated Patrice Lumumba, the leader of Congo, staged a coup d'etat of Kwame Nkrumah in Ghana, and provided intelligence that led to the jailing of Nelson Mandela in South Africa. Too much? For some reason, the West believes that the people who built their empires need overseers. That's the only reason I feel some type of way about the white coaches. I think this is the perfect moment to say, this is the real map of the world. This is the size of Africa.
But you know what, y'all? We are figuring it out. We never needed them. We don't need them coaching us. You would still have top winners in the World Cup if none of the coaches were white. But see, that goes back to that supervisor BS. The supervisor was only created to make them feel like they were better than a slave. But at the end of the day, it's not a necessity. It's not necessary to have these people coaching. It is the biggest scam that's going on the planet, where you have black teams and a white coach. It's the biggest scam going, y'all. It really truly is. They are not a necessity. They're putting themselves in those positions so they can feel relevant. But at the end of the day, they're not. They're not. They need to be the head coach so they can feel relevant. And the head coach can't even play the damn sport in many cases. you see them old ass looking African coaches. All of them look like they 70 years old. They can't play the sport, but they're the coach. Come on now. They're not a necessity. Now you know what these jobs are for, is to make them feel a little better about themselves if they're heading something. But at the end of the day, you are not a damn necessity. Let's get it all straight. Let's go on.
This is the map that the African Union is finally campaigning for. The one with the real measurements. Because in European maps, Greenland and Africa are the same size. But Africa is 14 times larger in real life. Look, we have never been a minority. There is nothing about us that is small. We are the cradle of civilization. And everything comes from us, including these whoopings on the soccer field.
Black people, you are universal people. You're not just black in America. The whole planet is black. It's 400 million original people. It's only 400 million Caucasians on the entire planet. You outnumber them 11-1, but they got you calling yourself a minor. You are the majority. It's 200 million of us in Brazil. We just under another name. And we think we are not the same. They just speak Spanish.
Yeah.
But they black. The original Mexicans, black.
Yeah. Yeah.
The original Chinese, black.
Facts.
Go in the mountains, go in the rural area.
Yeah.
I'm gonna dumb it down. The US has a population of 330 million people, right? 55% of that is white. So that means there's 181 million white people and 42 million black people, because we're only 13%. If 50% of black people are committing crimes, that would mean there would be 21 million black criminals. And if 30% of white people are committing crimes, that would mean there would be 54 million white people. So the number is higher. There would be more white criminals than there could ever be black criminals. Even if 100% of black people were committing crimes, it would only equal 42 million black people to your 54 million white criminals. I don't know what's not making sense. The number is still higher. There's a higher number of white criminals than there could ever be a number of black criminals.
There are 42 million black Americans, all descendants of slaves. Did you know that's the same size of population as Afghanistan? There are more black people in the United States than there are people in Canada. Black population is bigger than the population of an entire country. Did you know that there are more black Americans than the average country? Ghana only got 37 million people, 39. Regardless, we overpopulate them. The idea that we are a minority, it's meaningless. We're a minority only because we live in a country that takes up 1/3 of an entire continent. There are more black Americans than there are people in California and Texas. Those are the largest states in America. If black people all gathered in one place, we could have a small country. We are a nation inside of a nation. We are unlike other minorities because we are all the same. We aren't just a race. We are one culture. We don't come from different nations, different cultural backgrounds. We represent one culture, one identity. Stop letting the diasporic people trick you out your spot. We don't need to look to the diaspora for identities with 42 million strong, bigger than the average African nation, under one tribe, not segmented people under the guise of a nation, but one people under one identity. We have accomplished more in this nation than fully black nations with black leadership. People's opinions about who we are is irrelevant. At this point, 42 million people, doesn't matter what happened 400 years ago, doesn't matter from the different places we came from. All of that is long gone. The only thing that matters is that we're here now. We're looking to the future that we're about to build. We are in the coming of a Black Renaissance era. It will not be missed because people are looking to the past and to the diaspora for answers when they have none. It's time to let all of that go. None of that stuff matters anymore. We are here. We're not going nowhere with 42 million people. Let that sink in. 42 million. We are a nation.
The ironic part is racist people who are sitting down and supporting the USA team in the World Cup are basically supporting black excellence because black people are dominating the World Cup in European teams, in American teams, all over the world. There's black players everywhere. You love black people.
You know it's fucked up when you rooting for fucking Christopher Columbus over Nazi-ass Argentina. It's hard to be a sports fan during this World Cup. There was a brother named Williams on the Spain team. It's people from Ghana. His last name was Williams. He's black. And they got little black babies representing them too. So fuck it. We'll just go with Spain today. Not with the colonizing energy though, all right? Not with Columbus. It's the lesser of two evils. Go ahead, tell them, Swank. Yes, we've been left speechless.
When I talked about Brazil having a lot of black people, a lot of people brought up the fact that France has a lot of black people as well. With Brazil, they have Vinny Jr. He's him. But in France, they got two demons, Mbappe and Dembele. For context, Mbappe has 131 million on Instagram. That's how big of a star he is. Dembele's a demon too. A lot of people know him for like his viral meme. And France is full of black players as well. But it's like I said, it was more of a cultural thing when it comes to Brazil and France. Another black star in the World Cup is Nicolas Pepe. He's
Y'all take a look at this French team. I just see like 1, 2, 3 are light skinned and, you know, look like one white dude and the other 2 look like they're of mixed race. And then the rest of the team is black. This is the French team. But when you start looking at them all, they all are all these teams around the world are very melanated. Let's go on.
Like I said, it was more of a cultural thing when it comes to Brazil and France. Another black star in the World Cup is Nicolas Pepe. He's actually really good. On top of that, he used to date Tiana Trump. My boy was living life. And obviously, we know there's black people in the World Cup. But a lot of times, Americans don't know because soccer is not that big over here. And sometimes you just need a star to relate to so it can transcend cultures.
Do you know what would happen if black Americans started playing soccer? There would be no World Cup.
Nah, for real, we'd be a problem. I played soccer at Palm Bluff High School in 2006 as a team captain my senior year. We were whooping folks based off pure athleticism. I think we had maybe 4 or 5 guys that actually played soccer when they were younger. And I think a couple of those guys were foreign. I know that we had Nemeko Biagu, RIP to the Nigerian Nightmare, Adulu, and a guy from Germany, of course he was white, Johannes Rittenmeyer. The rest of us just started playing because it was a break from all-season football practice. But you had my forwards in J-Mo, Set, running like gazelles all over the field. Me, Adulu, and Jimmy Bell were playing midfield. Then my fullbacks were Rex, E-Jeezy, Bowleg, and DJ. Goalie was Jeff. And I think Johan was either midfield or forward. I don't know, but he was cold on defense. What we lacked in experience, we made up for in speed. When I tell you, you couldn't outrun us, you could not outrun us. And you got to understand that a soccer field is much bigger. You can get up to like 80 yards across and 120 yards up and down. I'm doing throw-ins that cover damn near half the field. I got fullbacks that play defensive end in football, chasing down the other team's forwards like they cornerbacks. And then we really didn't practice per se. Basically, we ran like a cross-country team and then scrimmaged for the next hour or 2. That was it. Had any of us taken it a little bit more seriously, I guarantee we could have won a title. I only started taking it seriously as a senior, and I ended up an all-star, all-conference, and the team MVP. And my coach told me I was only 1 vote away from being all-state too. But let kids in the hood start picking up soccer balls instead of footballs and basketballs. It's a done deal.
If you've been watching the World Cup, you may have noticed something interesting. A lot of players representing countries that people don't traditionally associate Black people with are Black. Because if you're watching these matches, Black players aren't the exception. We're the majority of what you're seeing on the field. France versus Senegal look like cousins arguing at Thanksgiving. Then you see Black players representing the Netherlands, Switzerland, Canada, Germany, Belgium, even Japan's goalkeeper, half Japanese, half Ghanaian. Then the World Cup comes around and reminds everybody. Black people are everywhere. Take Switzerland, for example. People see a Swiss jersey and automatically thinks of the snow, mountains, chocolate, and the banks. The banks. Then the team walks out and half the squad looks like they could be related to somebody from Kingston, Lagos, Accra, or Kinshasa. The World Cup is a reminder that nationality and ethnicity are not the same thing. For years, we've been told to think of Blackness as something small, limited, or confined to a few places on the map. Nationality is not ethnicity.
Anti-Blackness is a global issue, but you wouldn't know that watching the World Cup. Welcome back to Why is that soccer team so black? Today we're talking about England. As a reminder, here are our stats for England. You can see here that there's an estimated 4% Black population, but at least a 45% Black team. I want to be clear, there's no way to boil down national and international history into just a couple of minutes on a TikTok video, and that's why some of this is going to feel a little bit same but different as framed. And that's not because the history is the same, but some of these patterns are the same. I wonder why. Speaking of things that feel similar, perhaps for the lady, a colonial map. Pause if you'd like. And for the purposes of this discussion, a second colonial map zoomed in on the Caribbean. This is, you'll notice, at a specific time because, we were changing colonial hands like crazy for a minute there. You're getting a picture. In addition to Black populations from the slave trade, we also have a big influx of Black populations from what's called the Windrush generation. Like many nations after World War II, England needed to rebuild its workforce, and what did they do? They looked to the places they had colonized. Folks in the US who like to throw temper tantrums about critical race theory should actually learn about the Windrush scandal, because in 2017, a bunch of people got their rights revoked because basically the legal system in this country wasn't set up to acknowledge folks who had immigrated there for the purposes of benefiting England like 60 years prior. None of this, of course, answers the question of why the team is disproportionately Black to the English populace. And that is, of course, because there is no one answer. There is an amalgam of all of the answers. It is the pipelines that are not built for people to get access into various career paths. It is the way in which athletics is seen as an out in some communities and not others. It is the way in which only certain sports are very accessible to low-income communities, and it is the way in which Black people are overrepresented in low-income communities in so many places. But I'm so happy that commenters pushed me to do England next, because England is honestly one of the best examples of the ways in which these countries will prop up their Black players as representatives of their country when they're winning and when they're doing well, and absolutely be anti-Black and abusive when they're not doing well. I'm not making this up. I'm not making it about race. It's happening.
Every few years, the World Cup does something Latin American nation states have spent 2 centuries trying not to. It puts Blackness on camera and calls it national. And all these conversations happening around representation, identity, race, and history have been amazing to see. And for someone like me who talks about the Black identity and history, it's been both infuriating to see just how well colonization has done on some people's minds, but also inspiring to see how much people want to learn. Now to Ecuador. Ecuador took the pitch, and within minutes, there were several comments. These people aren't Ecuadorians. These are imported African. Tekashi 6ix9ine was the main corporate, and thousands of people agreed with him in the replies.
All these guys are Black. They're not even Ecuadorian. We're facing Africa right now. We're facing literally Africa. These guys are not fucking Ecuadorian. These guys are African. They're Black. Oh no, but we have Black people in Ecuador. No, you guys got these guys. They migrated, and you guys they're refugees from Africa, and they.
Shut up, you. Shut up.
Nobody stopped to ask the obvious question, though. Imported from where and imported when? Because if you actually chase that question down instead of leaning on xenophobia, it collapses the entire premise of the comment. Black people in the Americas are from the Americas due to our history here, not recent immigration. And Black people have been on Ecuador's coast since 1553, not 2003, not last decade, 1553, when a Spanish slave ship wrecked offshore near Esmeraldas, and the enslaved Africans on board didn't just survive the wreck, they organized. Under a man named Alfonso de Illescas, they built a free self-governing maroon communities on the coastline. Decades decades before Spain even managed to establish real colonial control over the region, and centuries before Ecuador existed as a nation with borders and a flag and a national team. The Spanish crown eventually had no choice but to negotiate with Illescas' descendants.
Okay, not to get off track, y'all. You know who they were panning at the World Cup when I start watching some of the replay. They were panning the camera across the audience. You know who they targeted in? This beautiful dark-skinned woman. They put the camera on her. I see, this kind of stuff is going to upset them because they have been shoving themselves down our throats as the beauty standard. But at that World Cup, this woman was a deep chocolate color. She was beautiful. And they zoned right in on her in the audience. And I said, I know they didn't like that. I know they didn't like it. But that's what happened. And it was a lot of melanated people. If you go and look, because I know when you focus on Argentina, you're going to just see those idiots. But when they panned the camera around, it was a lot of melanated people in the audience. A lot. And I'm sure, many of them were fans or related to some of the team members. But yeah, y'all, I think this was like turning on a light switch for a lot of people. Let's go on.
Descendants as an autonomous political power.
Trajeron al negro de su continente para sustituir al indio que le dieron muerte. Nos vendían en la plaza igual que un ganado. Nos marcaban en la espalda con hierro quemado. Esas verdades mis ancestros me la contaron. Y han pasado más de 500 años y vuelven allá. Unos regresan y otros nunca más.
Let that sink in for a second. Black Ecuadorians weren't just present at the founding of the territory. For a stretch of history, they were the ones holding power over it. Now, what's more Ecuadorian than that? So when somebody calls a Black Ecuadorian footballer imported, they don't just have their facts wrong. They have the entire timeline backwards. Those players' ancestors were building free settlements on the coast before the concept of Ecuadorian had even been invented. This isn't unique to Ecuador. This is the operating system of the whole hemisphere, as I've been saying for the past few days. Every nation from Canada to Argentina runs on the same three pillars: the depopulation of indigenous nations, the theft of their land, and the forced labor of enslaved Africans trafficked across the Atlantic to work it. Canada is not exempt. The United States is not exempt. Argentina, Uruguay, Chile, the countries that market themselves the hardest as European in South America aren't exempt either. They just did a more aggressive job at erasing the evidence. And that's the deeper machine at work here. Mestizaje, the founding myth sold across Latin America that these nations of racial mixture blended, harmonious, post-racial by default. It sounds progressive. It is not. Mestizaje ideology was a deliberate whitening project, a way for elites to claim national unity while writing Black and indigenous populations out of the photograph. Or worse, projecting a future where they'd simply be bred out of existence. Ecuador had it. Mexico had it. Afro-Mexicans weren't even counted on the national census until 2015. Argentina had it, going so far as to tell itself and the world that its Black population had simply vanished, when in reality, it was decimated through war, conscription, disease, and decades of denial. You don't get to erase people and then act shocked when they show up on your television during a World Cup match. Now, people look at these rosters. They see a disproportionate number of Black players and act like that needs a special explanation. It doesn't need a special explanation. It needs an honest one. The honest one is not that Black bodies are somehow biologically built for the sport. That idea might sound like a compliment on the surface, but trace it back, and it's the exact same logic that the slaveholders used. The myth that the Black body was a labor machine, as pure physicality without complexity, without intellect, interiority. Repackaging that as sports commentary does not neutralize it. It just gives it a new outfit. And the actual answer is that it's colder than genetics. When a society spends centuries locking Black communities out of land ownership, out of capital, out of universities, out of political office, sport becomes one of the only doors that society leaves open. Football didn't select these players because of what their bodies could do. Exclusion selected football because it was one of the last rooms Black communities were still allowed into. The overrepresentation on that pitch isn't a map of talent. It's a map of every door that stayed locked. So the next time a national football team goes viral, somebody in the replies acts stunned that it doesn't look the way they expected. Don't argue with them about the players. Argue with them about the myth. Ask them how a population can be foreign to a land its ancestors were governing before the country had a name. Ask them why a nation that spent 200 years trying to erase its black population gets to act surprised when that population refuses to disappear. The shock in that comment section was never really about who belongs on the roster. It was about how well the myth worked on the people posting it. There's a lot of decolonization that needs to be done in the Americas, especially from all of us, from black people, from mixed people, from indigenous people, from the myths and the lies that were sold to us about anti-blackness and about anti-indigeneity, and how that has warped itself into how we view ourselves and identity today. The World Cup has been an eye-opening experience. Stay black, stay blessed.
Oh, it most certainly have. To the point where it is one of the biggest chattering going on online, you know? And I notice them folks are very quiet. They are very quiet now that the chattering is like all these black people on these teams, and oh, they don't have nothing to say now, you know? And it just goes to show you that when it comes down to soccer, we've already dominated it. We dominated. That's why the World Cup looked the way that it did. It's been dominated. And no matter how much y'all keep telling us we're a minority, actually, we're big on this planet. And you know how they also try to brainwash us? Oh, the Latinos are big. Or no, the Latinos are actually big in the Americas and the Caribbeans. The Latinos are not big worldwide. We are big worldwide. They are not. They're just in certain pockets of the world. When you start going into Europe, it thins out. And when you get into the Middle East and stuff, they're practically non-existent there. But our people are there. When the Most High said we are in all four corners of the earth, he told the truth. We are. And these teams are living proof of us being in all four corners of the earth. And you got to also look at the fact that when it comes down to media all across this world, one standard thing they do, they always want to show you the palest people in those countries. The Arab world does it. We know the Latino world does it. The Asians do it. But when it comes down to the melanin, you would think they weren't there. But they sure came out when it came down to these teams in the World Cup. So, look, I am always grateful when the Most High will, pull the blinders off and make the world look. And I really feel that's what happened during the World Cup. So, all right. Mr. Dukes, thank you for the 200 gems. Flow State, thank you. Gem 7 Angel, thank you for the 30 gems. Flower, thank you so much. Sonia Bell, thank you for the 400 gems. Eagle. Lisa Parker, thank you for the 10 gems. Gold coin. Thank you again, Lisa Parker, for the 2 gems, 100. And thank you again for the 2 gems, Sparkles. Doris Birkins, thank you for the 10 gems, gold coin. J Smooth, aka J Row, thank you for the 2 gems, silver Sorry, y'all, got kicked out. Um, let me go back to where I was. Steel Wings, thank you for the super chat. B1 family, I deeply appreciate it. I hope I say this right. Ruzandi, thank you for the 440 gems. UNC alert. Okay, Yasedek, thank you for the 440 gems. UNC alert. Thank you. I hope I did not miss anybody. Let me just go down the list again. But thank you all for your support for my channel. I deeply appreciate it. Oh, yeah. But, we are in those times, y'all, where everything's going to be revealed. And as you can see, the colonizing voices don't carry the weight they used to carry. What a pity. What a damn shame. So, y'all, I'm going to go ahead and conclude. There are other lives that I'm looking at doing a little later today. So, I'm going to kind of break it up a little bit because I am still working on getting the Chebe growth butter together. I'm trying to do a bunch of them in advance. That way, when your orders come in, they can go out immediately. So, y'all have a wonderful, wonderful afternoon and be on the lookout for my next live. Shalom, family.